Open your books at the Four Dharmas of Gampopa. Can you pass it to me, those books? Do you know what page it is?
A20.
So we'll do Refuge and then we'll do the Four Dharmas. A20. We go for refuge to all the Buddhas, so that all sentient beings may realize Buddhahood. We go for refuge to all the Buddhas, so that all sentient beings may realize Buddhahood. We go for refuge to all the Buddhas, so that all sentient beings may realize Buddhahood. Okay. Please bless me that my heart and mind turn towards the Dharma. Please bless me that the Dharma open as a path. Please bless me that the path clear away confusion. Please bless me that confusion manifests as wisdom. So that's the theme for the week. It's like the whole of the path, really. But it's a recognition that meditation and the path is something that is coming to us. We're making space for it to arise. So this, please bless me, please. I'm opening my heart and I'm allowing the power of the awakened heart to enter me from the place of awakening, which means I'm just basically letting go of all my resistance to that. So I'm asking for blessing because I'm actually recognizing I just need to let go of my resistance, let go of my self-effort, let go of my sense I've got to do something, I've got to get it right. It's like really allow the adhisthana power and the influence of the awakened state, the awakened heart, to come to us. It's like getting out of our own way, really. Stop getting in the way. And that's difficult because we're constantly distracting ourselves. It's sort of getting worse and worse, isn't it? This idea, this sense of trying to distract ourselves. Even our idea of relaxing is about distracting ourselves, going somewhere else, being somewhere else, doing something else. Always something else. What's the next thing? Wouldn't it be awful to just be there with nothing else? Something else, always wanting something new, something different, something else. Why? What's wrong with what you've got? Sort of essentially, our society understands, no, it's obviously no good if you've already got it. But that is how we are. If I've already got it, as soon as I have it, as soon as I've got it, as soon as I know what it is, it's like, what's next? What's the next thing? Unless I suddenly become worried I'm going to lose it, in which case, how can I hold on to it? It's that sense of, that's the wrong way to find what we're really seeking. But to not go for the next thing, for something different, for change, it's almost like, what? But then I'd be stuck with what I've got. But you don't even know what you've got. It's like we've already turned away from it. We've already decided it's not here. That's what we're correcting with this meditation, and why there's simply sitting for hours and hours and hours and hours. You don't have to be sitting if that's uncomfortable. But if it's comfortable, it's the best way. You just sit. But otherwise, just keep your attention coming back without busying yourself, without occupying yourself, without filling the space with something. That's why just being still in one place is the best way, because then there's no possibility of distraction, I say. But of course, our minds can always work out, find things to distract. But then that becomes more obvious that you're doing it to yourself. As you sit through those, hours and days and months and years of decades of it's the same old thing, and more, gradually the penny dropping. I'm doing this. I'm choosing to do this. I don't have to do this. Gradually the penny drops, and something can open up. What is really there can actually reveal itself. So that's the great message of meditation, great message of the Buddha's of teaching. There is something right here to be discovered. Much more than you ever imagined, or you could imagine. So the first Dharma of Gampopa is, please bless me, because, the way I bless myself is just more of the same. I need a blessing from something else to come to me, to influence me. Please influence me. Please have an impact on me. Please, I'm opening myself to you. Let something happen to change me, to change my old habits, to turn my mind towards the Dharma. So what does it mean by Dharma here? You could mean it in a very general sense, that, these wonderful teachings of the Buddha, please bless me that I become interested in what the Buddha taught. Be interested enough to listen and to start trying to follow these teachings. So that's one way you could understand it, which would be right. But there's another way you could understand it that would be even more right, and that's the Dharma in the sense that we have in the Praise to the Three Jewels. The Dharma, which is not non-existent, nor exists, it is not other, nor is it other than these two, impossible to analyze, escaping all description, realized by the self alone. It is peace. Namo to this light of stainless wisdom, whose rays banish darkness, the fault arising from attachment to the various sense desires. That's the Dharma, the true nature of reality, of our being, and that nature being alive within us, that it has this power within us to remove confusion. How else do you recognize confusion? How else do you recognize that something's wrong, something's a mistake, something's not true? What are you relying on? What's telling you that? Light of stainless wisdom. It's within you. It finds deception offensive, doesn't it? If it's deceptive, if it's false, it's like indignation. It's wrong. So it's not just opinion. I mean, okay, you can get locked in opinions about this is right, this is wrong, but there's something much deeper which you can sense something isn't right here, something isn't congruent. It leaves you with this sense of unease, dis-ease, discontent, of, in a deep sense, not just because I want to find something else. I mean, the reason why we're looking for something else is because we can feel this. Something's not right. And then we're adopting the strategy of trying to find it. Whereas actually that sense of dis-ease, that sense of something's wrong, is actually our inner compass. It's the light of the wisdom within us. We know it's not, when we're full of anger and hatred and we want to hit people and strike out, it doesn't feel right, does it? It's not what we want to be. You could say, yes, I do. At the moment you might do. At the moment you might do, but ultimately that's not how you want to be for the rest of your life. okay, you might want to strike out and get rid of something, but there's a reason why. Something inside you saying, because I want peace, I want things to be congruent, I want things to be simple, I want things, and this isn't. But then, if you strike out and you get violent and aggressive, then you fill yourself with even more of what you don't want. So ultimately, you've got to adopt another strategy. Eventually, the penny has to drop. So turning the mind towards the Dharma is actually a major operation. We talk about motivation. You need a motivation. What's the motivation for adopting meditation? Well, it could be because I want, a bit more ease. I want to feel a little bit more sense of who I am, or some sort of discovery, or you might find words for it. But the real reason why the Buddha taught meditation is because it allows us to actually change the direction of our whole orientation towards what it is to be here at all. To turn our minds, our thinking mind or our busy mind, towards the Dharma, which is self-awakened. It's peace, beginningless. This is the Dharma. Like the Dharma, the Buddha, even the Sangha, they're all referring to this same true nature. So turning our minds, our intentions, our thinking, everything that has now been orientated out there to try to get something, has to be turned around and become content within our own being. So that's a lifetime's work, really, isn't it? Maybe not just one lifetime. We wouldn't be here if we'd only just begun. We must have already been trying to do that in order to be drawn to the Dharma now. So that's the first step, which, if we do no more than that in our lifetimes, we've accomplished something. And it requires two qualities. First, it requires an utter revulsion and disgust and abhorrence for that habitual state of mind, of totally wanting, grasping, trying to fix things and make things, and the tension involved in that, the mistakes involved in that, the greed, hate and delusion involved in that, the pride and the jealousy and all the negative emotions that are involved in that. Enough. I've had enough. That has to be, you have to really, really be decided that you've had enough. You want to turn around. And that's an accomplishment. That's a spiritual accomplishment. But you're not going to be able to do that effectively without faith, actually. Shraddha, without some sense of what the alternative is. That's why in the Discovering the Heart of Buddhism, we first explore the alternative. What is the openness, clarity and sensitivity, the changeless nature of our being? Is that the alternative I want? Is that the direction I want to go in? And you have to want it. So it's no good somebody saying, well, you should turn away from samsara because it's very bad and suffering and nasty. And you think, oh yes, I should. Oh yes, but just a little bit more samsara, just a little bit more attachment, a little bit more pride. A little bit doesn't matter. But you have to find the real sense that there is an alternative, which you really want. So in a way, that's what Discovering the Heart of Buddhism is all about. That there is something within ourselves that we want to discover, We want to learn to trust. We want to have confidence in. This is what we really wish for. All right, that's what it is. So now, yes, enough of all the suffering arises from grasping at what's not real, as if it were real, which then leaves us grasping onto that when we come to die. And then when we die, the best we can hope for is that we don't survive death, because what else is there? And then what guarantee do we have we won't survive death? Many people hope they won't survive death, don't they? Kind of, or when I die, it'll just be like, poof. And yet they're still afraid of death, which is strange. I mean, what's scary about that? You never did exist, and you're not going to exist anymore. So what's the problem? So that true nature of our being knows there's a problem. It knows it didn't arise, it didn't come from anywhere. So there's no way it's not going to survive. And then there's this horrible prospect that it won't survive as what I think I am. Oh no! What will I be? So that's where the fear of death comes, doesn't it? I think I'm this, and this is gone. So then what am I? Because somehow you're still there. The true nature is still there. Oh, I've got to grasp onto something else. Well, how about if you didn't grasp onto anything else? How about if you'd learned not to grasp? Maybe it would just be the same. Just, another day. So faith, revulsion for samsara, and faith that there is something else. Please bless me that my mind turn towards the Dharma. Then bless me that the Dharma become the path, or Chursadra. Yeah, Lamchadra, sorry, Lamchadra. The Dharma become the path. Again, this could be understood in two ways. It could be that I understand the Dharma correctly. So whatever the teachings the Buddha gives, may I be able to apply them properly in practice so that they lead to progress on the path. Or again, they could be understood as that bless me that I realize that true nature of my being, which is the Dharma, which is not non-existent, nor exists, is not both, is not other than these two, impossible to analyse, escaping all description, realised by the self alone. May I realise, bless me, so I realise that Dharma. And then that Dharma, by having confidence in that and becoming completely committed to that true nature, may that itself be my path. So that would be the deepest meaning of that line. The Dhamma itself become the path, which is in Trusting the Heart of Buddhism, there's a whole section about the truth being the path, doesn't it? It's what's meant when they talk last night, Godchagpa, his life story. He's practicing Lamdre, the path as the fruit, because the fruit, the result of the path is to realise the true nature, but actually here you're taking the true nature itself as being the path by recognising the true nature and then committing yourself and aligning yourself and having confidence in this true nature. That becomes the path. There isn't any other path. This is why in the Mahamudra and Dzogchen teachings they talk about base, path, fruit. You recognise that basic nature, maybe just a glimpse, but you take that as your path, and then the fruition is that it's totally revealed because you've let go of everything that's obscuring it. So these teachings are all saying the same thing basically, and it comes down to the same as what the Buddha was saying originally with the Eightfold Path, when he said right view. Right view was when you was brought about by encountering the Buddha live, and the Buddha would take you to the place where it would dawn on you, and you would then get the right view, which was very much like what you talk about pointing out instruction in the Mahamudra and Dzogchen. And on the basis of that, you can follow the path to full realization. So it's all of a piece. So may there, what is it? How did it translate it? Bless me that the Dharma open as a path. So that's how I chose to translate it. It doesn't actually say open. In Tibetan, you can have very few words that when you try to translate it into English, you have to add something to make a sentence. So we translators take liberties. So I took a bit of a liberty there. It hasn't got a verb, you see. Bless me. Lam to draw. Bless me that the Dharma goes to path. Goes to path.
The verb go.
Go, it's the verb to go. Goes to path. The preposition could be any preposition you want. Goes in path, and you can have any article you like because there's no article. Goes in the path, goes up as a path. It could be anything like that. Yes?
In the first line, what's the verb? Lo chesu draw. Lo chesu draw. I think it's the same. Chesu draw. I think it's the same verb. To go. And then the third one, bless me that the path clear away confusion. So having had this pointed out, in order for that to be effective, we have to persevere. If we're going to actually remove all the confusion, we have to persevere. And one of the problems with this very simple approach to Dharma, having the nature pointed out and then applying that in our practice day and night through everything we're doing all the time, with complete commitment, that's the most difficult thing, because all our habits of mind are in the opposite direction. So we have to find all sorts of devious ways of keeping ourselves on the path. And only that way can we create a situation in which that view will remove confusion. Because if we just have that flash of understanding and then we just talk about it, but we don't actually apply it, it doesn't remove confusion. We just get this idea, oh yes, I understand, I know the answer to that, that's this, that's that, but we're not applying it. So we don't get to see what it's pointing at, really, because we've just got a bit of a glimpse. It's like Carla Rinpoche used to use the image of the moon as the comes into the full moon. Yes, you've got a glimpse, and it was the moon, but you've got to keep at it until the whole moon is showing, and then you get the full effect of the moon. But yes, you're right, it is the moon. That little glimpse is right, but it's just it's not the whole thing yet. So that takes perseverance, and we won't remove all our obscurations until we've actually persevered and kept with that through thick and thin, through, months, years, decades, lifetimes. But just to have got that glimpse and to have confidence in that and to have a strong revulsion for samsara is already these are major spiritual accomplishments. They're not, you don't come to that just overnight. You can get a flash of understanding, with a lot of intensive effort. You might get that quite quickly within months, years, weeks, days. It's possible. But the whole thing is going to take a long time. So, and even with real renunciation, real revulsion, real faith, and real, really a lot of confidence in what's been pointed out, even then it takes a long time. I mean, we hear the stories of people like Gampopa. Even then, it takes years and years of meditation. So there's no need to get kind of despondent and think, okay, well, there's no point because I'm not going to get enlightened in this life. We need to think, somebody like Gampopa and Milarepa, these great beings, how did they get to that place? How did they get to be like that? Because when they were like me, now, they applied themselves. They applied themselves as best they could. So that's what I can do. That's what I need to do. And then, you can think, the good thing about that is I will get lots of flashes of understanding, which really helps and helps my faith to get stronger. And I'm setting myself up for a birth like, Milarepa or Gampopa or somebody like that who did do it in one life. Okay, maybe you've done it in past life and this life. If you apply yourself, you'll be like Milarepa. Because you don't know. Maybe you've done all this work before. And so, there's really no reason to get despondent when you think it takes many lifetimes. Because what you do is exactly the same, whether you're going to get enlightened next life or you're going to get enlightened this life. You're going to have to apply yourself. So, wherever we are, and however much we can apply ourselves, we're going to reap the benefit of that. So that's something to feel really pleased about. And one of the ways that we can hasten our own progress is to think about great beings like Milarepa and Gampopa and think, just by thinking of them and their qualities, those qualities will grow in me. That's a very nice practice. It's quite the opposite of getting despondent and thinking, oh, well, I'll never be like that. It's like, oh, by thinking of their qualities and how they came to be like that, those qualities will arise in me. You could make that your only practice, because they would. Those qualities would arise in you as you thought about them in others, with that feeling of longing to have longing to follow that example. And then the fourth one, is may confusion transform into wisdom. What is it? Yes, manifest as wisdom. Yeah, I think it says. Yes, it's transform. I've used the verb manifest, but it may transform into wisdom because it's a sense of everything that I now regard as obstruction to enlightenment, all my bad habits and all my wrong ways of thinking and confusion, everything that's going on in my mind, really. I think this is obstructing me, and the Dharma is tremendous contrast to all this stuff of attachment and clinging and anger and hatred and pride and egocentricity and all the rest of it. So that all needs to be removed by trusting in the heart of awakening and learning not to be attached and to drop wrong assumptions. So then, that would lead to awakening. And then this last line is quite shocking, that all that stuff isn't a problem. All that stuff is itself a manifestation of the true nature. after, then you're out of a job. You're trying so hard to make no effort. But, you kept making an effort because you believed that all this stuff had some kind of reality that needed to be, that somehow that had to be removed. But actually, itself, all of that stuff is also the energy of awareness of the awakened heart and mind. It doesn't have any other, it isn't actually a problem. It's only when we attach to it as something that it becomes a problem. So then finally, this is the final instruction, if you like, that actually that it really isn't anything to do because it's already liberated. It's the same in the Heart Sutra. There is nothing to accomplish. There's no path. It's already accomplished, if you like. That's the Dzogchen way of putting it. So that can be a tremendous inspiration, especially if you're like me and I keep thinking, well, where's all this going? Where's all this going? And then you think, oh, there. Oh. So I don't have to invent anywhere else that it's going. So even though I'm not there and I can't see that, I know in the end that's going to be the answer. It's quite interesting. I find that stops my looking for an answer somewhere else, even though I haven't really realised that. Whenever I come to that line, I always recognise in myself that I still believe in all my negativity and all that. I really believe in my non-enlightenment, let's put it that way. I've had all these flashes of flashes of insight. But at the end of the day, I really believe in my non-enlightenment more. I kind of know I'm going to get more of it. I don't know when the flashes are going to come, but I know for sure in between the flashes is all this stuff. And I believe in it. And then this line is saying, in the end, that also will go. You'll wonder what on earth all that was about. Because, and then when you get these flashes sometimes, you have this tremendous sense that you're never going to fall back again. Because it's kind of like, oh, that's so clear, so obvious, that's how to be, that's how it is. I'll never forget that. Then it's back business as usual. And so this line of, oh, because I believe it. It's because I believe it. I've gone back into believing it. So that, in the Vajrayana, when we're making our offerings, this is called the offering to Rudra, where you offer all that stuff. You offer all the stuff, all the egocentricity and all the negativity. You offer it. And it's sort of like challenging your belief that it's real. That you wouldn't offer this horrible, shitty stuff to the Buddha. And then you kind of challenge it and think, even this is pure from the Buddha's point of view. Here you are. It's quite liberating, that. Just for a moment, it's kind of quite liberating. So those are the 4 Dharmas, and so we'll recite this every day as a blessing during this retreat. And we'll also sing the 7 Delights so that we can all learn it. And it's particularly the first verse. Let's sing the first verse.
Oh, great, thank you.
Can you start us? Thoughts that there is something perceived and a perceiver, lure the mind away and distract,
I don't close my senses gateways to meditate without them, but plunge straight into their essential point. They're like clouds in the sky, there's a shimmer where they fly. Thoughts that rise for me, sheer delight. So maybe you can see the connection between that fourth line and what Gampopa is singing here. He's reached the stage where he's realised the thoughts themselves are already self-liberated. And that means everything's self-liberated, because he's already realised that there isn't anything that isn't created, all the samsara is created by thinking. And then if the thinking itself is self-liberated, come on, bring it on. There's more, it's more delight. It's all revealing to me the true nature of my being, and it isn't in any way a problem. So I don't need to stop thoughts. I don't need to stop. It starts the senses gateways. I don't need to stop. I don't need to sit still and not have any input that might distract me, because I can't be distracted anymore. The thought that there's a perceiver and perceived, I'll come to that in a moment. But basically, what I've been teaching in the Shravika view about not self, that the skandhas are not the self. The skandhas are what are created by thinking, by putting things together and believing in them and thinking this is my body, because it's made of all these things and that's my body. But that's actually all thought. So when you can see the nature of that thought is free in itself, the body, whatever it is that you're calling the body, is no longer a trap. In fact, it becomes the Buddha body. It becomes your Nirmanakaya, your ability to manifest Nirmanakayas. So, but until that time, we have this idea there's our body and there's me that knows the body, has the body, or is in the body, or the body's in me. Somehow there's this body that I'm sort of stuck in, or maybe it's in me, but anyway, it's mine, and maybe it is me. So there's this very strong identification with this body that I've thought up, and I've made it into something solid, something that I can relate to, that's me. So then there's this body, there's me, there's my mind and my body, there's my mind and the body and the world, and there's other bodies. So there's lots of things have appeared that are the perceived objects, you could say, that I really believe in. And that's actually all distracting me away from what's really happening. And this is where it says plunge into this essential point, where if I actually recognize all of that is thinking, then I'm liberated on the spot. And what's liberated? The three cars of the Buddha are liberated. You could say the body, speech, mind of the Buddha. What's revealed is your Buddha nature, because you're not the skandhas and you never were. So thoughts that rise for me, sheer delight. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about thought and the way thought is used. In this song, that line, the thoughts that lure my mind away and distract, the line is, yes, Zongzing Tokpe Ying Tam. So I think Trungpa Rinpoche translates that as, is it fix? He doesn't use fixated, fixing. Zongzin. Zongwa means to hold and Zimba means to
to grasp, so that it's like what you're the grasped and the grasped at. So perceive and perceived is the grasped and the grasped at. So when I get distracted into feeling that, trying to grasp things as something graspable, this is this, and I'm the one grasping it. As soon as you do that, you're distracted away from your true nature. So thought here is definitely Sanskrita, compounded, made, constructed. So perceive and perceived are constructed from our concepts. And then as soon as we've gone into that mode of constructing things, knowledge out of concepts, we're already distracted away from what is really there. Because the concepts, like for example, let go into space. So you think, yes, space of awareness, there's no limit, it's everywhere. Then you start to realise, hang on though, that's just a concept of space, isn't it? It's just a thought. I'm just thinking it's space. You can tell you're thinking it's space, because if you ask yourself, where is that space in relationship to your head? Is that space inside your head? You can think as vast, if you think as far as the horizon, you have a thought as big as that. Is it in your head? Strange, isn't it? Definitely you can have an experience of vast space, but your head doesn't feel vast, does it? So what's going on? This is where you can spend time reflecting on what's going on. I must know. So you bear in mind that what thought can do. So thought can create an idea of a little head, and it can create the idea of a vast space, and it can create the idea of some sort of problem. But where's all that thought? Where's that? It's almost like you can have this thought or that thought, but can you have, or what is it that's, in a sense, what is it that's there before the thought, during the thought and after the thought that doesn't change for the thought to be able to appear? For you to be able to know it's there. Patrick asked the other day, well, how does when you're meditating and then you're distracted, how does that come into the 5 skandhas? And I can say, well, when we think something, feel we know what that is, thinking, then that would be the skandha of the samskaras, habitual thinking. And then when we actually can be aware of that thinking, and we're not that thinking anymore, because we're maybe not for very long, but there's a kind of a different way of knowing by means of which we let go of thinking, isn't it? I recognize thinking. That mind that lets go of thinking and thoughts, that's my body, that's my head, that's space, that's big space, that's even bigger space, that's even bigger space. That's all thinking. We know it's thinking, don't we? Something knows that's thinking. So that knowing is not the skandhas. That's why the Buddha said, if it's the skandhas, it's constructed. If it's not constructed, he didn't say anything about it. He didn't say they were skandhas. So anything that's not constructed isn't skandhas. So you could say is what you truly are. Not constructed. So even when we let go into space, we might be enjoying that a bit. Space. Sit for an hour or two, enjoying the space, letting go of thoughts. Just a bit of space for a bit. But then, almost inevitably, when you step outside, and maybe you've got a lot of sky or a big vast view, it's sort of like more space, isn't it? It's almost like you could always have more space. And when you think about it, is that space, am I knowing a space that's outside of my awareness? Is it possible? You know, in a space, because I tend to think, well, there's space and that's just empty, there's no awareness in it, and then there's my awareness that can become aware of it. But maybe that's just thinking. I suggest when you're reflecting like this, I was trying to notice how I did it myself, and I noticed I get to a point where everything collapses, and then I just try to get back to what I know is true, which might not be very much, but it's surprisingly significant. Do you know is true? I know that's a thought when I make a space in my mind. And I know I think I'm separate from it if it's outside. I know I think it is. But I don't really know anything else. So if I could not think that, what would happen? What would I know? Or even if I dropped the thought, I know, if I just could get as simple as I possibly could. Like that, something like that. So when it says let go into the space of awareness, it's a trick instruction. I say that at the beginning of my book on meditation instruction, that instructions not really to be taken too seriously. A little, because it sounds like, all right, let go into space and awareness. Okay, there's a space and awareness, I let go into it. And then you think, I can't do this. Or maybe you do, maybe you like it. But then it's interesting to see what you're doing if you are liking it. And you might have found a way of relating to it that's kind of takes you very quickly beyond concepts. So you like it. Or you may find it takes you very quickly into puzzling. Oh, I can't do it. Or it might take you very quickly into, there must be something more interesting to think about. So that's what we're there for, just to notice what is that, what are we up to, and then thinking about where we want to take that, really in our heart of hearts where we want to take that, and what we could actually recognize as thinking, and having recognized it as thinking, what then? So, okay, if I go bigger space, bigger space, watch one of these programs about the nature of the universe. It's absolute, incredibly big space. And then that multiplied by any number of times, it's even bigger space. Is it just thought or not? Is it just thought? Or is there something else there that's real? Because it feels like it, doesn't it? So if somehow you could, it's taking you somewhere, and if you could drop the thinking, that might be something, mightn't it? Because you're right back here if you drop the thinking. But before, when you were back here, you were little inside this body in your head. But now when you drop the thinking, you're in this, it's a different experience, isn't it? Maybe it's more true. So I meant to be just talking about thought, but with my example I got carried away. It's a good example. So then you could think again about, well, there's skandhas and there's samskaras and constructed thought processes built on habits of mind, wherever they come from, whatever they are. It could be that we've built up these habits of mind, these thought constructions over many lifetimes, this very basic thought construction of perceive and perceived. I'm something and the world is something that I'm seeing that's different from me. Where did that thought come from, actually? It's such a strong habit. Even if we can drop it for a very short time, it's straight away back again. So that gives you a sense of how strong these thought patterns are. So you can hear the way I'm talking about thought here as being quite fixed patterns of structuring your thinking pattern. Like time and space and self and other, perceiver, perceived, even big and small, all these very basic things that structure our whole thinking is counted as thought here. You could say our assumptions about the nature of things is thought. So when the thought that there is something perceived and a perceiver, it's not necessarily that I'm thinking it as a little thought that comes in my mind, flitting past. It's like I'm fundamentally thinking that. It's conditioning all my thinking. It's conditioning my whole experience. So when it says thought, when the thought that there is something perceived and perceiving, it means in that kind of way. And because that way of thinking is so strongly embedded in the structure of our, you could say, the mandala that we've taken birth in, really, it's really hard to detect it and find it and notice it. Nonetheless, it does take us away from our true nature. It prevents our true nature just doing what it does naturally. It's got this overlay of thinking, and on the basis of that, those structures that are there that need dismantling, if we're going to see our true nature, come the passing thoughts that come and go. So, we're sitting there meditating and then something comes up and we're off. We followed that. And that has a whole structure to itself. It's like a mandala in itself. And then because of what we've set up before, the intention to follow this path, at some point this mandala and this mandala and the intention, this is weaker than this. So we come back. And we don't even notice how we come back. It just seems to be we come back. Because these mandalas are kind of working with each other. They're all thought mandalas. But this one is aligned with what we really want to do, which is realize our true nature. So if we reinforce that one and reinforce that one, it becomes stronger than all these others. But at the moment, they can just come in and off we go. And then we go. But we can come back. We have this power to come back because we're not just thinking. There's something about our nature that isn't just thinking. And we don't think our way back. We just suddenly remember, don't we? You suddenly remember, oh, what was I doing? Why was I here? Oh, it's coming back. Or, okay, let it go. Come back. So that remembering and that ability to remember, the ability to recognize, the ability to see that, to choose, no, that's not it, this is it. That isn't one of the skandhas. The Buddha didn't actually say that isn't one of the skandhas, but it's obviously not one of the skandhas because it's not constructed. It's not built of a habit. It's actually you, if you like. The Buddha did use self very affirmatively all the time. This is yourself, your Buddha nature self, your true self, not yourself that's constructed, that is you're holding on to, the skandhas. It's not the skandha self. It's what's not the skandhas. You can't grasp. And you can't know it conceptually. You can't make a concept. You can't construct a concept of it and then think, yes, I know what that is. Because then it's one of the skandhas again. So it's a different way that you know. And you already know in this different way. There's lots of things that you know in this way. It's not conceptual. So it's really coming back to that different way of knowing. And in the meditation book, it talks about immediate experience, direct experience, immediate experience. So that could be, when you hear that in English, keep with your immediate experience, you could think, right, so my immediate experience is what's happening now in this room, and not thinking about the future, not thinking about the past, just what's going on in this room at this time here, which is already good, isn't it? Not all the time. I mean, if somebody were like that all the time, you couldn't really talk to them about anything. But it's good in the context of meditation that you're just coming, right here and now. But then, if you do that, you realise this is again thinking, isn't it? I'm thinking, not future, not past, right now, here and now, this body, nothing else, just this. It's all thinking. I mean, it's quite good exercise, but it's all thinking. So that's why Rizin Shikpo says he coined the phrase and Trungpa Rinpoche got it from him. But maybe anyone might have coined it. Rather than saying it's about the present moment, it's about nowness. The immediacy of nowness, which is, it has that quality of now, but it doesn't have that quality of thinking. It doesn't have that quality of not future, not the past, just now, just this moment, just this very short moment, just the immediacy. That's all thinking. But there's a quality about all of that wakes you up, doesn't it? Like if you try to be right here in the present, bang, click, something wakes you up. And it's that awake quality which is, it doesn't have it's not thought. You sort of, for a moment, you've stepped out of thought. So it could be vast. It's like Rizin Shikpo gives the example of dropping a tray of cutlery. Suddenly you're shocked. And you're shocked. And your mind goes big, doesn't it? I mean, I say big. It goes out of thought. You don't know where you are, what has happened, like... that quality of not thought. So when it says immediacy of experience, it doesn't mean you can't think of the future. It means that you can open out into a kind of space, but it's more like a kind of knowing. And we do this frequently, don't we? When we let our mind drift a bit, and then maybe we've got something on our mind, we've got a decision to make or something, but we're not thinking about it. We've let our mind really, we've given up thinking about it, and we're just kind of not anywhere. What are you thinking? I don't know. Where are you? What's happening? And actually some inspiration can come into that, can't it? Suddenly it crystallises into, oh, that's what I need to do. Or that's where we ought to go. Or that's how I should do it. So it's like that came out of nowhere. So we are familiar with this, aren't we? That space where something comes out of nowhere. Okay, then we do a lot of thinking around it to kind of pin it down. But as time goes on, you realise most of that is superfluous. As you become simpler, you realise we think far more than we need to, actually. I certainly do. I notice as a culture, Tibetans, they really tell us off for thinking too much. Don't think so much. Just do it. Just relax. Just go for it. Do it. And they get a long way with that, don't they? Because we have that faculty already. And I think we use it perhaps more in the arts than we do in the sciences. But in fact, even the sciences, it works that way. I mean, Wittgenstein often talks about this, how, if you've got a mathematical problem and you're thinking about it and thinking about it and thinking about it, he said, whenever there's a new insight, it always comes out of the blue. It always comes out of the blue, and then that's it. And then in order to communicate it to your colleagues, you've got to then put it into formula and into a form that can be read and understood and checked. But what's driving that is always that you already had the answer. So that this another way of knowing isn't so mysterious that, we've got no experience of it. But we do need to learn to switch from thinking to this other way of knowing, which is actually rather, it's our preferred mode actually, because it's so inspiring and so us, so what we truly are. So how on earth we manage to get so alienated from it is peculiar. So there's these two things to be looked at. There's that other way of knowing, which is, if you like, our essential openness, clarity, sensitivity, that we're easing our way back into, to having confidence in that. And then on the other side, there are all the distracting thoughts that are coming up all the time, and our habit to take them as real. I think you probably all recognise those two things you're dealing with. So when we talk about insight, vipassana, sometimes that's talking about noticing that we're thinking and being able to recognise that it is thinking and that we have a choice to let that go. But perhaps the deeper kind of insight, the more important kind of insight, is into the other way of knowing, that's our true nature. Because the more confidence we can get in that, the more we can orientate and link in with our heart wish and confidence in that, the more the confusion would just dissolve by itself. It doesn't all need unpicking. So usually there's this division of meditation practice into shamatha on the one side and then vipassana. I don't know if it's on the other side, but on the basis of the shamatha you get vipassana. But I'm adding to that in the vipassana you have both, vipassana means insight. You have insight into the nature of your confused mind, which is your thought, and then insight into your true nature, which takes more the form of an intuitive alignment with your heart wish and confidence in that openness and clarity and sensitivity of your being. So those two are working together as well, and feeding into each other. They're like the feeding in, a little bit more letting go, a little bit more confidence in your true nature. It's important to notice it. A little bit more deeper, dropping into that non-conceptual knowing. The easier it is to let go of habitual patterns of thinking. But all of that, of course, is based on some kind of shamatha, enough ability to stay with your experience enough stability of mind to be able to develop insight. But in fact, you don't need more stability of mind than you need for developing insight. So the aim isn't to stop all the thoughts and get everything still and calm, completely still, completely calm. There's no point really. You need just enough calm and stability so that everything that's appearing can be used for insight in these two ways. It can be used for insight into the nature of that confused thinking, and therefore being able to let it go, and insight into the true nature that's aligned with your heart wish that you're learning to have confidence in. And your mindfulness practice, your shmriti, mindfulness practice, is for enabling you to do that. And the mindfulness is in fact your Buddha nature itself, because it's always there. You always have that choice there, and that in a way mindfulness is exercising your choice of what to do. Like you can recognize what's happening and you can choose what to do about it. You may feel, well, I don't have much choice because I'm so conditioned. Yeah, that's just showing you what choices you made in the past, really. So now it doesn't mean you can't choose now. So if your mind's very, very excited, you can choose, yes, more excitement. Or you can choose less excitement, but it's still exciting. Yeah, but you can still choose less excitement. You're still choosing less excitement. You're still aligning with wanting less excitement. And gradually you stop feeding it. So you do have that choice. So those were the main points I wanted to make today. Does anyone want to ask something immediately? Yes?
You said it's like a fault or a wrong view, or it's also in the text that we distinguish between perceiver and perceived.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, the mandala principle is kind of also structured like this. You have one mandala and another mandala.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really get the point, You always have these distinctions.
That's right. That's right.
And also this when we talk about mandala principle, we also have these Wächter attendants, and they kind of
Attendants?
I don't know the English expression. Guardians.
Guardians.
And there
yes.
is something like coming from the outside and.
Well, yes, this is the point, isn't it? That the Buddha isn't saying that there isn't anything. But when it's constructed, when you construct it into thought, that's when you run into these contradictions. You can't quite understand it. So if you try to think yourself, oh, I'm a mandala, the more you try to think about it, the more confused you get, don't you?
I don't know.
Well, did you find you got more confused?
No, I just thought it's kind of similar to the idea of a person or of some
exactly
like a system.
Yeah, it is exactly that.
So I don't see why the concept of perceiver and perceived is wrong, while the concept of mandala is real. Do you know what I mean?
Well, you could say you don't see why that's wrong if the whole world is real.
Pardon me, what?
Well, if the whole world is real, if we're really here,
yeah,
then what's wrong with that? What's wrong with thinking that you are you and I am me? What's wrong with that?
No, but it says in the text that, there's a perceiver and something perceived, and this is a kind of confused view.
Yes, but why is it why is it confused?
Yeah, that's why that's what I'm asking.
It's confused. It's confused not because in principle there's nothing happening.
Mm-hmm.
That there's no world here. It's confused because we're misinterpreting the world. So we're misinterpreting it as being fitting with our concepts and thoughts about I'm here and the world is there. And the world, we're trying to fit it into these concepts. The thought that there is a perceiver and perceived is a distracting thing. So we've hemmed it all in with thinking. And as long as we hem it in with thinking, that's... You kind of think you know what you mean by outside, don't you? This is space inside, that I'm thinking of my space inside. But that's not the whole universe of space, because that's outside. We think that, don't we? I do anyway. When I see these pictures of the whole universe going on forever, I think that's the universe out there and I'm in here. Mm-hmm. I think that.
Yeah.
But actually, I can't... If I think I'm here and the world is there, how do I know it? Because it's outside my thought. And I only know my thought. And that leaves me in a very difficult position, doesn't it? I would think, are you saying that I am the whole universe? But if I think that, I'm a bit mad. If I think I'm the same as you, I'm a bit mad, aren't I? Because you know jolly well I'm not. So that's thinking. But if I go into a different mode, I can open my heart. When I open my heart to a universe as vast as that, and even vaster, then what I am is not what I thought I was. I can't even think what I am. Do you know what I mean? It's almost like I could open to the whole universe from my heart. It kind of... But now I don't know what I am. I can't think what I am. But it doesn't matter. Does that? I think I've made you all very puzzled. I can't think what I am. But it doesn't matter. It's like whatever I thought I was wasn't really me, so it doesn't matter. I mean, I thought probably when I first, if you do an operation on me, I think I'm inside my body. I think it's happening to me and I think I'm in here. Actually, it's very strange when you do that. Because are you in there? Where in there are you? How did you get into your stomach? How are you hanging out in there? I can't actually think how I'm in there, actually. I mean, yeah, I get scared as if I'm in there, but I can't really think how on earth I could be in there. Similarly, if I open out to the whole of the universe, all beings even, I mean, we say it, how many times a day, for the sake of all beings, I can think all beings, and something happens, my heart opens, something, but I can't think what that is. I mean, I could call it bodhicitta, I could call it something, but I can't really. But I know it matters. I know it matters. And then when I go in here and I think that this is real, oh no, I think, but I don't even know where I am in relationship to my body. You know, I could just let the body go, like when I die. And that feels like really meaningful. If that's true, that really matters. I don't know, does that make any sense to you? It doesn't answer your question, does it?
No, but it's okay.
But it does come up in THB. It goes into that in quite some detail in THB.
Okay.
Yeah, that it's not, when we say perceiver and perceived, the thought there's perceiver and perceived is what distracts us away from what is really the perceiver and perceived.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's good. Yeah, I write this down and reflect on it.
Yeah. Because, you know, even when Buddhas are enlightened, they still are aware of other Buddhas. They're still aware of other beings. They don't think of Buddhas and beings in the way we would, but they still they're still kind of like alive and, you know, doing things with each other. But then it's empty at the same time, which is amazing. It's all empty, and yet there's this opening to each other going on. So like the first thing the Buddha said when he reached enlightenment was, well, who shall I worship now? You know, it's essential to what it is to be, it's essential to be opening to something, to be interacting, or to be, you know, that movement of awareness is essential. So the Buddha, you know, in the end he sort of recognised, oh, it's the Dharma. You know, I can open to the Dharma itself. I don't need, you know. And then of course he started to bring the Dharma into the world for other beings. So it doesn't all go quiet and dead when you've... It's not as if there's no meaning at all behind what we've made a mistake about. So we think that's the perceived, and we think this is the perceiver, and then we think, how on earth can the one know the other? That's all thinking. But it all came from recognising other, didn't it? And a play and something meaningful there. So that is not thought.
When you say revulsion for samsara, is that something quite deliberate? I mean, I feel like I have quite a lot of revulsion, generally. I don't know, should I then deliberately
Cultivate it.
Guide it?
Cultivate it, yeah.
But I always feel like that's a problem. I should be trying to get over my revulsion.
It's revulsion for the right thing, isn't it? So it's what you are recognising is what is actually causing the suffering. So if it's just, well, you know, I can't stand looking at lepers or whatever it is, you know, like, yeah, look, it's full of pus, and, you know, filthy, you know, beggar in the street. That's just ordinary repulsion. But if you see the beggar looking like that, and in your heart of hearts you feel this whole grasping at our skandhas as real leads to this situation, and just as this beggar is clinging to his body as real, I cling to my body as real. And just as he's suffering when he's clinging to it as real, I will suffer, you know, because this body's impermanent. So you actually then are no longer going to cling to things that are not real as real, because this is what it leads to, this kind of suffering. But your love for that being is increased because you're recognizing yourself in that person. So you actually feel this love for this person because you recognize yourself in this person. And you feel revulsion for the way all of us are trapped by our grasping and our taking this as real. So that's where the revulsion is, the taking of it as real. You kind of recognize the deep cause of samsara, and that's what you have revulsion for. Does that answer your question? Not
So
quite.
The revulsion is already there, so I just
Yes.
assume that it's there because I intuitively know something's wrong.
Yes.
Get rid of it.
Yeah. So then it is
I
to
don't
cut.
have to separate revulsion for this, for that. It's already there, so that's
Yes.
just use it.
Just use it, yeah. Just use it to direct it. So that, as I said, if you're seeing somebody who's ill and you feel revolted, recognize it's not that person suffering. It's not going to solve it by me, drawing a curtain over it. I have to turn towards it. I have to go towards that and recognize this is what it's like if you're born as you're born in this world, grasping at these 5 skandhas as yourself. And isn't that terrible to do that? And that's what I'm doing. This is what all beings are doing, and then that actually causes compassion to arise.
And is that skandha as well, the aversion or revulsion?
No, the revulsion that's coming from seeing that it's grasping at the skandhas that is causing all the suffering, that's coming from your wisdom. But when you don't recognize that it's coming from your wisdom, you just try to find a strategy within the skandhas. Within that constructed world, you're just saying, well, maybe I can make everybody better. Then I can make everybody better. Then we could all cling onto our bodies and we'd all be happy and better because we're all happily in our bodies and they're all well. But then that's not really going for the real problem. You might temporarily produce a happier state for everyone, which is good. No one's going to complain about that. But it isn't revulsion for samsara. You're just trying to fix samsara. So if at the same time as you were doing that, you were thinking, this is samsara, this is because we all take this to be real, when it's not real. I'm going to learn not to take it to be so real so that I can actually go beyond this, and then I can really help beings in an unlimited way. So that again would be revulsion for just temporary fixes and wanting to go for a really deep remedy for the whole of the suffering. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
All right. When the thought that there is something perceived and a perceiver lure the mind away and distract, I don't close my senses' gateways to meditate without them, but plunge straight into their essential point. Like clouds in the sky, there's a shimmer when they fly. Thoughts that rise for me, sheer lie.